I want you to improve your art as well in a fun way and not in a stressed way. Hi. Today is an interesting video. We're gonna make a plan on ways I can improve my art. Like making plans to getting better, you don't need a reason for that, so do it if you feel like it. And by the way, wrist brace because I had bad posture one day while I was drawing, and then like I didn't notice and I continued to draw for like fucking 4 to 6 hours, and that's why like I hurt my hand. So yeah, learn from my mistakes and always check your posture before you start drawing. I'd say I'm not really great at traditional art. I'm not very comfortable with the mediums and stuff, so that is definitely an area where I want to improve, but I am pretty happy with my digital art at the moment, even though there are some things that I would change. So let's get into it. So the way I'm gonna make this plan is in 3 steps. First, I'm gonna roast the shit out of my art, point out all the flaws, figure out what needs improvement. Number 2, I'm gonna write down what shit I need to do in order to improve these things. You know, like if I want to improve my poses, I will write down do figure drawings, and then step 3 is actually making the plan and then arranging the actions into time slots. I'll talk about all 3 of these steps as I'm explaining them. Step number 1 is, of course, to critique your own art. And when I critique my art, don't think I'm putting myself down. It's so important to not tie your self-worth to the art that you make. Like, I might point out all the flaws, I might say my art looks like shit, but that doesn't mean I feel bad about it. If you make bad art, it's okay to say your art is bad. It's okay to make bad art in the first place. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. So, you know, before you start critiquing your art, it's really important to make that mindset shift so that you don't feel demoralized. Trying to improve is a good thing. You shouldn't feel bad at the first step. So that being said, I'm gonna show you like a few artworks that I've done, and I'm not saying they're bad. I am proud of most of them, but there are certain things in my digital art that I want to improve. One is making poses more dynamic, and I don't mean like having like weird poses. I mean having like normal poses in different angles. So these days when I draw characters, it's pretty dead on, maybe like a 3/4 view, but in the future I want the character art that I make to feature a lot of foreshortening and just overall dynamic angles, dynamic gestures, things like that. And number 2 is again scenes with dynamic angles. Now I'll be the first one to say that I'm not very proficient at drawing backgrounds. The fact that I call them backgrounds and not landscapes, it's a telling sign that I don't take them seriously at all. So I want to make it a point to get better at landscapes, interior scenes, you know, just a lot of environment. And usually what little environment I draw is, you know, very dead on angle, you know, 1-point perspective. I want to incorporate more like fish eye view, you know, 5-point perspective, 3-point perspective. Number 3 is leg and arm anatomy. Now I know this is very specific and weird. I can draw like torsos pretty well. I love drawing abs and pecs. I mention that incessantly on my Instagram. I also love drawing back muscles. So, you know, when it comes to the torso, I actually know all the names of the muscles and stuff. Even in the face and head, I know like what are the planes of the face, what muscles connects to where. So that's like in the bag. But when it comes to the arms and the leg, I don't know jack shit. I don't know what the names of the muscles are. I don't know what bone connects with what, and I don't know like what the shapes of the muscles are and how they affect the shape of the skin. But that's like really important to know, at least for character art, which is mostly what I do. So I want to learn leg and arm anatomy. It's so specific and so weird, but it's important. So these are all the things. These are the 3 things that I want to improve in my digital art. Other than that, I'm happy with my lighting, shape design, color composition, value composition, shit like that. Okay, so traditional art, right? It's something that I am not good at, and I am trying to teach myself how to use watercolors, even though I really don't like using transparent watercolors. I mix my watercolors with gouache, which works out a lot better for me. When it comes to my personal art improvement, I don't really like focusing on like the materials, like getting better at technique and stuff. I don't care about that shit. I don't care about like being good at transparent watercolors for the sake of transparent watercolors. The only reason I'm learning how to use watercolors is because it's like really small and portable. I don't mind changing the medium to make things easy for me. I just want to focus on what makes a better end product and not so much on getting better at this specific technique. Whatever, that's a tangent. I don't want to rely on references a lot. when I'm doing traditional art, when I'm drawing in my sketchbook, I usually like study references, and that's because I see references as a training wheel for mediums that I'm not very comfortable in. So like if I start using a new art program, so I use Clip Studio nowadays, let's say later down the line I start using Procreate, then the first thing that I will do is copy a reference, because that helps me understand the program and get used to it. So same thing with traditional art. I'm still trying to get used to like mixing colors, getting the colors that are accurate to the reference image, instead of like inventing colors like from my brain. But I want to minimize that. I want to like learn from the references, yes, but I want to like draw my own shit as well. If you don't know, I'm a comic artist, so I do a lot of world building. So in my sketchbook I want to do like a lot of OC art, world building, shit like that. So not relying on references is a very important thing when it comes to traditional art for me. Another thing that I do with my sketchbook art is I draw a lot of portraits. I draw landscapes as well, but I draw mostly portraits because again, portraits are like training wheels to get used to the medium, because that's something I draw a lot and that's something I'm more comfortable with. So I want to transition into drawing a lot more landscapes. I want to draw a lot more landscapes, both from reference and from my brain, and I also want to go out and actually draw from life. Oh, and the third thing is getting shit accurate. When I'm drawing in digital media, I have resizing tools, so when I get proportions wrong, I can just select it, resize it, look at the reference, make sure everything is right. In traditional media, it's very hard to like change something after you put down lines. Even erasing is annoying. So I want to get better at actually measuring, like how artists measure with the brush. These days I have a lot of trouble capturing the likeness of a face when I'm drawing portraits. I don't have that problem in digital media because I resize things and make sure the proportion fits. But in my sketchbook, when I have to erase a lot, like it just doesn't happen for me. So I want to get better at measuring and like copying shit down more accurately. I think it's a nice skill to have. Then the next one is a very important thing. I want to like actually learn from reference and not just blindly copy references. Maybe when I'm drawing from life, maybe when I'm drawing from a photo reference, I want to look at the reference and then draw it, again tying back to the original point, drawing it as accurately as I can, and then practicing drawing the same thing without a reference. Using references is all fine and dandy, but I don't want it to be a crutch. Sometimes there are things that you need to draw for which no references exist. So what are you gonna do then? And I know this is like not essential for every artist, but personally for me it's very important to be able to draw from memory, draw from imagination, and not rely on references. That's basically the end goal, to be able to draw anything from memory without reference. I don't know if that's a strange goal to have. It's something that's important to me. So I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna draw from reference, and I'm gonna try to register all the forms, all the planes, and all the lighting effects and shit into my brain, so that later when I'm drawing it again, I can think about the principles of how light affects something. I can think about the principles of how form curves in three-dimensional perspective, shit like that, and actually be able to draw without looking at the reference. And the last goal, it's not really an improvement goal, it's a goal in which I need to do this thing because it seems extremely fun. I want to do plein air painting. All the videos that I watch of people plein air painting, they just have a grand old time, and I want in on that, even though I can't really go outside at the moment because I live in India and the vaccine situation is pretty bad in India. I'm not vaccinated yet. Right now I can probably only go to my terrace and nothing else. Those are the 9 things that I want to get better at. So the next stage 2, is listing out what shit I need to do in order to get better at these things. Dynamic poses and angles. It will come from gesture drawing, but you're not gonna get to see like very fantasy-esque action poses in dynamic angles when you go to a gesture drawing class. I don't have access to a gesture drawing class at the moment, but there are some videos on YouTube where like there are live models from whom you can copy and shit. I'll probably leave all that linked in the description. But yeah, I don't think gesture drawing would help me with very dynamic angles and foreshortening. So I'll probably have to look up a few reference images where people are like in very weird poses. Maybe I can collect reference images from films, like action films. Studying from film would be a better bet than doing gesture drawing. Then scenes with dynamic angles. Again, films are really good for this. I think I need to copy screen caps of films where there are beautiful landscapes and nice interior shots, good lighting. So I'm gonna take screen caps from films and draw them in all their 3-point perspective glory. Leg and arm and anatomy. Okay, this is easy. I'm sure everyone knows the YouTube channel Proco. He is like such a great teacher, and he has put together this course on anatomy, and most of it is there for free on YouTube. I don't know if I'm gonna get his whole anatomy course or if I'm just gonna follow his YouTube tutorials. And I actually go to art school, and I have never seen anatomy taught that well ever. Also, like, it's so fascinating because I go to art school and I have learned nothing from art school. Everything that I know about art, I have learned from online art creators and great artists that are generous enough to share their knowledge online. So yeah, if you want to be an artist and you think you need to go to art school, not true. Just take it from me. Online creators are masters, art school professors are not. So yeah, I'm gonna learn leg and arm anatomy from Proco's courses or videos. He's amazing, he's the best. Not relying on reference for traditional art. This is a kind of paradoxical because in order to not rely on references, I have to draw from references, and I think all of the next 3 points tie into the same thing, you know, learning not to rely on references, learning from references and remembering it, and also getting shit accurate in measuring when I'm drawing. All three of those things tie into the same kind of practice, which is actually drawing from reference and then analyzing what you draw. I can get a few references, I can set up a few still lifes if I want to draw from life. There are a few principles that goes into making a scene, you know, light and perspective being the two main things. So when I study a reference, I want to remember exactly how the principles of perspective and light are affecting that particular thing, and just be mindful of what I'm drawing. So yeah, and the last thing is plein air painting, which I can't really go outside, again, not vaccinated yet, so I'm gonna go to my terrace and draw shit. So that is basically what I need to do in order to improve. Next step is the plan and time slot selection. I think it's very easy to see a lot of flaws in your art and get overwhelmed with what shit you need to improve. And what I would suggest doing, and what I'm going to do myself as well, is to make a list, a very long list. It can be as long as you want, and then having that list somewhere where it's visible, and then every month just picking 2 things from the list that you will concentrate on that month to improve. You know, so this month I want to improve at figure drawing and still life. So what I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna make a Pinterest board or a folder in my computer with a bunch of references for figures in dynamic angles, dynamic poses. I think you can never go wrong with practicing figure drawing. I'm gonna continue figure drawing as well. I'm probably gonna dedicate like half an hour to figure drawing, half an hour studying poses from action films and still lives. I think this is like a really fun thing to do. I really like drawing still lives. This will help me with measuring my accuracy, and this will like help me again with understanding form and light, shit like that, you know. So still life and figure drawing are the 2 things, 2 actionable steps that I want to concentrate on doing this week. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, maybe like 2 hours throughout the whole week, and maybe 30-minute chunks, because you know, like, wanting to improve your art can be a very exciting thing. It can be something that will make you very overwhelmed. It's really important to like be mindful and take things slow and take things like one at a time, so that you don't feel like you're stressed. You know, art should be fun, and you don't even need to like work on improving if you don't want to be a professional or anything. But if you want to improve, then again, you don't need to feel bad if you don't like your own art. It means your tastes are elevating, and that's a good thing. So it's very important to look at your art objectively and not feel bad about the flaws in your art. So yeah, that's basically how I plan to improve on these specific things about my art, and I highly recommend you make a plan for yourself. You don't need a good reason to do it, just do it because improvement is fun. You know, it's a nice adrenaline rush that you get when you're actively improving on something. So yeah, that's my video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.